Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Galactic Interversal Consortium. Today's episode is being filmed on 5/14/26. This is going to be interesting, folks, like these usually are. But before I get to anything, I now open this circle to true benevolence and no conflicting agendas. This also means this is tighter circle, deeper roots, and anybody with any ill intentions, any lies, or any hyperbole, any of those type of topics cannot speak on this show today. You must tell truth, and you cannot be a yielder as of this moment in time, and that is added into all of this. We will organize that just a little bit better for the opening, but I wanted to make that clear as we're starting. So in the future, we'll make that a little more orderly. So I will do the law of one. The law of one. When one is helped, all are helped. All in unity stand strong. So therefore, in the name of who I am, and I am one with all there is, I ask that only the highest good be done with all concerned and all that happens in this show and otherwise. I also ask that all negative entities and energies be swept away as of this moment in time. I give thanks that this is done. So be it. And so it is.
So be it.
All right. This is something that, we thought of this last second. We're going to continue on with the Draco conversation. It seems to me that people are really looking that direction recently. And it started to dawn on me because I've been seeing a lot of them lately in sessions. They've come up in people's private situations that have asked me for help. They have come up. I'm thinking, okay, there's all this propaganda on the internet that they are going away. And yes, we have said that it's a fallen empire and they are just broken up factions. We said that in the previous Draco episode. Not the avian one and not the aquatic one, but the regular good old-fashioned Draco crocodilian raptor type ones that you see in here David Icke talking about. And then also the fact that David Wilcock said that they were shapeshifters. Now, what's true and what's false about this? It's mainly psionic field that they're using to trick people. It's mainly you doing things to yourself versus them actually physically doing it to you. They need you to be the projector. You being a mammalian, them being a reptilian, they have less imagination, let's just say, to come up with things. But they know a human could expand further on a particular thing that they are trying to accomplish. So with that said, don't let them do this. And also don't believe some of the hype that they are completely in control. They are not. They tend to be servants to the Orions, which that could be another episode we do. I'm not going to go too far into, I know they're associated with Orion, but at the same moment in time, there is a whole other different set of classifications on Orions. We can do that at a later date. It does not have to be done right now. But where there's a high royalty, white royal reptilians, then you have like the foot soldiers that people know about, and you have a lot of these others in between, these little different variations, and there's mixes. I came to find out that's an update to this information. There's hybrids, mixes, and those that have a slight bit more, like a bit of a hybridization, people that have a bit more hybridization. If you believe the Stuart Sverdlov material, he said everybody has a bit of reptilian in them. I actually kind of have to agree with that. Same with Orion genes and stuff like that. I have to agree that there's a teeny amount in there. Not that I don't always agree with everything some of these people say, but there are nuggets that I do pull out that I personally can confirm when I'm looking at it. To break it down for you, it's a fallen empire, and this species is sterile, and they're actually going extinct. They work with the Nachtwaffen currently, that's the Martian Germans, and some claim there's some good in there. I have to disagree with that assessment because every single Draco that I have ever encountered has been some kind of manipulator and some kind of demonic entity. Some are the classic ones with the horns, and then most of them are the ones that are crocodilian and raptor in look. It's a blackish bluish color, or even some span red, green, yellow. I've seen all this like banana color. And then, of course, the white being the classified head. I mean, the Orions are above that. Orion Greys are above that. But in the Draco classification, that is usually the ultimate. But the one that we found out is actually more at the top above White Royal was the avian one that we spoke about before. Classic Draco What are they up to right now? They're up to their usual shenanigans. They put depressive, sad, suicidal thoughts in people's heads. Aside from the mouth slash lice and other archontic, disembodied or non-corporeal entities, they will put depressive thoughts in your head, get you to be suicidal, get you to do horrible things, say horrible things to people. Classic demon behavior. Right now, they even though they're scattered with different tribes and different chiefdoms and whatnot, they I've caught a few in people's sessions, caught a few in people's properties, just skulking around doing some sort of reconnaissance. And I started looking into this further, and they were reconning to do some kind of weird phase two. Think of like almost like a Marvel classification when they do the movies. They had phase 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This seems to be some kind of like weird phase in that order of succession or order of operations, where they are attempting to do some other round of fear mongering, and they did this around the COVID timeframe. And I'm not trying to pander to there's going to be a World War III, or if there's another pandemic with hantavirus or some crap like that. I'm not trying to do that. But I have noticed it's syncing up with what you're seeing on the propaganda fake news, and you're also what you're seeing some of the propagandized videos on the internet surrounding current issues like hantavirus and a few of these other things. And I've noticed that they're trying to bring the fear level up. And this also coincides with during COVID, I noticed the fear level went up, and the Draco had a Lucian field day from hell during that time. You cannot give in to that. Cannot give into it. And as Joanna and I would say on the lifting, the age of discernment, as Isaac always said, because this is very, very true, more so than ever before. And some people have even speculated that the whole Draco story is nothing but a 3-letter agency set of propaganda. I started swimming that around in my head too. It's like, wait a minute, was this like the Jesus story, the greatest lie ever told? And they were just mind fucking people, basically. I went to look into that with just V2K. I'm thinking, the mouth, the Arconian binary network, all that. Yes, there's a factor. That's a factor. And in bases and in SSP, people's SSP time, they would shuffle around beings like reptilians and stuff like that. So people would remember this, even though if their mind was wiped, they would remember maybe a bit of misinformation. I understand where people are getting that from, but I've also seen the damage that the actual Draco have done. So they are indeed a living, sentient, and separate entity that it happens to be basically entangled with all the rest of this material. At least from this current standpoint, that's what I am currently seeing with this. And this is I would say an update on their behavior, but their behavior has not really changed. The only atypical behavior that I've seen from a few Draco is they're taking more risks, and they generally don't. They generally are cowards. If you get to the point where you can overpower them, they even though they're to the last breath, they still will back off because they're like, they want easier prey. They want fearful, easy prey. People that bitch and complain a lot and whine is essentially what they want. Can't be a whiner in this folks, even though I probably should talk. But, and I've done the biggest bitches and grievances to the Galactic courts lately. And one thing I will say on that is they want people, even though, you've heard us say the whole needs of the many outweigh the needs of the one or the few, the Spock mentality, or the Spock philosophy. Yes, that's good, but also the individual situations matter. Tighter circle, deeper roots. The way you get the Galactic Court's attention is that you can't always make it about yourself, even if something really horrible's happened. You must also show them what the global ramifications for them lapsing are. And in situations like the Draco, and in situations like lice or any of these topics that we say on these shows, specify to them what you feel it will do to the planet and to everyone. You will get the Galactic Court's attention when you actually don't always make it about yourself, even if you've personally experienced and you have major bitches and grievances. That's more the update with that, and the Draco included in that discussion. So, Bjorn?
Yeah, it's a good point. I think whoever's channeling, I'll ask them a little bit about the galactic courts around that, because in our session yesterday, we picked up some details around that was key to how they wanted us to address the courts. And I think in the show today, we'll follow up as a part 2 to the Fallen Empire of the Reptilians, and see if we can understand a little bit more of that, because that show, if you haven't seen it, go back and watch it. And we're going to try to follow up on some questions that we have around that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I also want to thank everybody for actually viewing that episode. That is the top rated one of all time on our channel here. So I want to thank each and every one of you for making it top 1,000 views. So that's just something we noticed recently, and we're thanking all of you for that.
Yes, thank you.
Keep going. View our channel, like, hit the bell, all of that. Be much appreciated. So I know today, because I'm thinking somebody, obviously Spirit, somebody knew the topic. I also noticed as I was talking, I noticed this pressure on my left side. People, you cannot get alarmed if you feel a squeeze here on the heart. They're trying to get you to think you're either having a stroke or a heart attack. That's another ploy they're doing. I've learned to ignore that until you can't. You don't want to give them any power. They are trying to gaslight a reaction out of you. Don't react until you can do nothing but and try to stop it. Don't let them sit there and just take abuse either. You let them know who the boss is. But you don't want to feed into their looshing capabilities either. And I believe, and we can confirm this with whom speaks, I believe they are trying to tout how strong they really are, and they're bloating and over bloating their power level with the scattered numbers that they have. So as it stands, who is it that is speaking today that is truly benevolent with no conflicting agendas under the tighter circle, deeper roots phrase? I can feel several of you. It is actually slightly difficult to see, but all I need to do is hear you and feel you. So I would like to know who it is that wishes to speak. Come again? Okay. Can you prove your identity, please? I'm actually, and then you'll see me do this a lot, folks, and I would highly, highly suggest that you guys do what I'm about to do here. I'm actually going to ask that True Benevolent Source Creator, True Benevolent Earth Mother, and the True Benevolent Verses please audit and code audit all beings that are around us that are truly benevolent and no conflicting agendas as of this moment in time. Audit them in all dimensions, expressions, timelines, collapsing, invading timelines, and all multiversal, omniversal, and super omniversal situations within any and all energies and frequencies, seen unseen, heard unheard, felt unfelt, and known and unknown, mirrored across time and space where appropriate, under the supervision of True Benevolent Source Creator, True Benevolent Earth Mother, and the True Benevolent Verses. It is forever so in all moments, all sessions, and expressions. There we are. That's a mouthful, I know, but we've refined it down to those words. And I had to commit that to memory, folks. That was not easy. So,
did you do the log one as well, Chris?
Yes, at the very beginning I did. Yes, I did.
Oh, yeah,
and
okay.
I would
that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some people may think I'm being too overly cautious, and that's people say it's about intent in connecting and intent that you're protected. Absolutely so, but the words count and they ground all of that. And also external protections like the hood here from V2K in the mouth and lice right here. So it's just, I know some people have accused me of over co-creating the problem and creating a tulpa. I understand where you're getting that from. If you overdo, sometimes you're creating the problem. Like if you're like, say if you have a box and say you have to contain an entity within a box and you have to guard the box, well, you're co-creating the entity within the box, like a Dybbuk box or something like that. You're co-creating its existence by the mere willing to keep it trapped and guarded. So I understand the concept, but right now, who is speaking before we delay any further? Vessa, gotcha. All right. And I want to know, folks, I want you to know, folks, that doing that audit, if you can clearly see guides, if all of a sudden you're doing that audit and they just vanish for no reason, they weren't for your highest good. Let's just put it that way. If you're that anal retentive about the wording and they don't pass that, and they don't pass any of this gauntlet that we've set up, they are not worth speaking to at all. They're lying on top of them, even though they might be lying to protect. They will still pass an audit doing that. If they don't pass an audit, that was evil, folks. So I wanted to put that out there because we have painstakingly refined that down over the years. And you can repeat what I said further back in this recording, and some printed versions will also be made available. So as it was done a long time ago. So Vessa, I will get a crystal set up here. And okay. All right. Ooh, dry throat. I know the energies are fluctuating now. Cotton mouth is a sign of energy drain, fluctuation, and change. And just like deja vu is a sign of Mandela effect. Just so people know. Vessa? Ooh, okay. You are in a hurry here. All right.
If anybody wants us to do a show on deja vu and Mandela effect and the relationship with fate, let us know in the comments.
Mm-hmm. Sorry for the delay in the channeling. There are unseen things that are being guarded against right now for the usage on this show. If you are a channeler currently, you must discern what is around you, why it is around you, for what reasons is it around you, and know the classic saint names cannot be trusted. From Michael to Gabriel to Jesus to Uriel and all of those, and Uriel and all of those types that they've also repeated ad nauseum for many, many decades. Cannot trust any of these to do the job that you wish. And I wish to, before going into the Draco, I will state that all that you are dealing with on an even footing, being wise, has and always will be at an even footing with yourselves, no matter what time frame, dimension, or expression, because of the fact that there are no designated guides. There are technically, even though yes, we help guide, so I suppose that is an apt label. But there are no guardian angels, and also what you figured out about the Velodians, that it was still, if any beings are trying to promote a saviordom, oh, we have all of this technology, but no, you can't have it. That is a carrot and a stick, either by your government, military, and or some ETs that are just fucking around. That means they have to find out at some point. So, where I will get to is this. The reason he has been seeing more and more Draco buildup, as you are correct, the government cronies, let's just put it that way, have started to stoke the fires of fear. And this is how they feed the beast. And yes, fear is a natural emotion that, of course, if it's balanced out correctly, it acts as a margin. But when it's not correct, it will feed those that are around. And before anybody says this is mis and disinformation, yes, are your government agencies screwing around in this area and have created mis and disinformation to make you think that this other thing is not real? Yes. But the Fallen Empire is still a thing. They have roughly 50 or 60 years left before they run out of people. And are there good amongst them? Yes, but like what was said off recording, if there was a tribe of people and only 2 of them were good, the ratio at that point would then dictate that you're going to run into trouble with that particular group of people or ethnic group. So, with that said, this is not a racial or racist thing. This is a factual thing. This is the numbers game, folks. So, with that said, the typical ways that you can defeat Draco intrusions into your mind. He said it before. Getting rid of narratives. If they are attempting to write a narrative through your co-creative abilities, know when your imagination has been hijacked. And he said even when he saw a false Star Trek-y type scenario where Joanna died, he went and rewound it and not necessarily rewound it, but continued on where she was brought back to life. And then he put his name as executive producer director on the film and faded to black. There were 2 Draco that were putting that into his head. They got really angry at him. And some of the bigger desert dweller ones, there's a T-Rex type one that wasn't mentioned before that is actually in the Draco hierarchy, that they are very pissy and they live in the deep deserts. They look like the T-Rex, but with longer arms. They don't have little short arms. That was a joke that was being done on them because they have no sense of humor, doing the short arm thing. That they can't reach anything, they can't get anything, but they have the big head like some kind of mongoloid creature. No, that was actually a joke on those that could not take one. So that is a way you get them with laughter. You make fun of them, like what he did, the whole Hans and Franz bit with the Martian Germans, or the commandant and his lieutenant. Brilliant, like Isaac would say, learn to laugh at them. Just like he said off recording an entity they were dealing with last night. He laughed at it to the point where it pissed it off enough to where it took off. Not always recommended, but it does work in a pinch. Provocation is what paranormal investigators call it, but it's not recommended for every single situation, only the tough ones. Now, another way that you recognize Draco intrusions, depressive thoughts, typical demonic energy drains, typical like murderous thoughts, and also alter activations. Say if you've been in the programs, they'll attempt to get into your head and look for anything that is hidden, bring it out in the open, and activate an alter. Your $3 agencies use V2K and remote control tech for this, but they will also look for memories of yours that may be happy and turn them bad in the scenario in your head and create a narrative, or they will find bad memories of something maybe they created. Maybe they turned you into a slight abuser for a minute and you're not that person, and oppressed and possessed you in some way or form. Ghosts sometimes will do this too. They'll get you to be haunted by said events, or they will get you to never, a person to never forget if someone else did it to them. This is a reptilian, Draco Reptilian move. Someone in private was telling him this recently about somebody that walked up to him at work and was acting extremely volatile. And also your Mr. Smith programming and such, where that programming drops in, that's lice in the mouth and the Arconian binary network. But aside from all of this, even though Draco are bound with AI and also intertwined with the Archontic dimension along with the mouth, it's kind of like when you get one, you get the other kind of situation. But with that aside, they have this nano core that is in their spine, where the Highlander mythology came from, cutting the head off and the quickening. And the power releases, that is essentially the Orions taking the power. There can be only one kind of deal. Now, with that, they do that. They cut the head off if they want to gain the power. Why is it set in New York? Because New York is the petri dish for all these experiments, and it's a big alien hub. And a lot of this activity is going on where one immortal faction is fighting another immortal faction, and New York is an experimental hub for aliens. Infighting, territory lines on a map, you name it, New York is the petri dish for it. The Gathering, please. Now, the way that with the souls that are released from it, they go back to spirit if nobody's there to capture them in a soul arc, which is part of the soul trade. However, another way you beat the depressive feelings, whereas somewhere a Draco Reptilian fears to tread. This is the ultimate question, either in here or outwardly. You must remain in the creative heart space, regardless of how much they beat you up. They're trying to blind this from you. The Martian Germans did the same when he saw someone in a session was going to be a medic, and the Martian Germans set up an alien that was dying to see if he would show empathy for the being, and they didn't want empathy. They want to weed that out of their people. So, with that said, you must keep that empathy no matter what, no matter how many stupid people you encounter, no matter how many what he calls muggles that you encounter. They are sent your way manipulatively, either through the Mr. Smith effect or draconian presence, to see if that you will constantly hate the people around you. Being angry is a normal thing, but being constant in a hateful mindset is not normal. Is it normal, like if somebody like murdered a family member of yours, to actually hate them? Yes. Oh, absolutely. I would be the same. But it can also become a harmful cudgel that is used against you. It's a weakness that can be used against you. So it is not always smart to do so. Now, when it comes to forgiveness, should you be forced to do so? No, because that's also forcing it in a religious aspect. Also, with the feelings that they dredge up in you, they have to use something that is currently within you. Doing the appropriate amount of shadow work within does not allow them to latch on to you in any way, shape, or form. Next way to fight these beings. If you see someone that is influenced by them, do not pick a fight with that person. Walk away. The only time that we recommend that you clash is if it's a life-threatening instance, or if one you know that you can snap the other person out of it with your frequency at the time. Your light is shining bright, so therefore they see this. It is necessary to cloak this, or as you say, Bjorn, armor up when you go into public, or as he says, charcoal layer, like a sniper in a ghillie suit in the woods, or a soldier in a ghillie suit in the woods, and cover that. Or like what was said at the end of your Dr. Sleep, shine the light brightly, but know when to camouflage it because of things that could be more dangerous, or paraphrase. So, with that said, we can actually, I will say one more thing. Ground, always. Walk in nature, always. Where Draco feared to tread externally would, and some have been spotted in the woods. That's the more creature of the Black Lagoon type. That's another one that's out there under the city streets of New York. No, there's an old Draco stronghold from the times of Atlantis under there. It's an ancient site. That's one of those where angels fear to tread, or guides, or positive galactics fear to tread. But that's more where angels do. That's more where demons don't fear to tread. Now, with place like forests, place like parks, where him and Joanna went to recently, staying out in nature more, getting to more rebonded with the earth. That is another way to defeat them. Earthing your home. He saw someone in Japan using tatami mats and a copper wire, going to a room where they could reground. Keep yourself grounded, always. He even uses this P90 PMF device next to him to bring about a forcing ground. The military projects would do this if you would get out of mental control and deground around telepathic aliens, because if you said hello to them, you would be screaming in their head if you were angry about something and not mean it. Charles J. Hall was like that with Harry, or Range 4 Harry, where he said in his mind one time when he saw some garbage, he was going to rip it up and shred it, and he didn't see the alien standing nearby. And he got reprimanded temporarily by his superior and said, "What'd you say to this alien? You threaten him?" It's like, "Oh no, I just said this." It's a misunderstanding. Those misunderstandings happen. But in order not to escalate it, you must know when there is a misunderstanding. The Draco like to create these misunderstandings telepathically because they're assholes. So, with that said, I can actually go into questions.
Oh, thank you, Vessa. I'm grateful you're here. We had Odin speaking on the Fallen Empire of the Draco Reptilians last time, and he would have a perspective of his life and his experience through that time. So would you speaking about this today, would your experience be more of an understanding of what is happening today and a little bit more of just knowing their history, or have you had past lives as well into that time?
Yes, me and Elena have had past lives into those times as well. And also, we've looked at it from the MDTF perspective. We've seen their shenanigans quite a bit too, looking at their history and the timelines. So, yes, Odin was correct in his assessments, though we may disagree philosophically on things from time to time, and also some of his recent shenanigans we don't necessarily approve of, but he is actually recovering currently. But we do recognize truth when we see it. Sometimes it's based in bias. Something you might be disgusted by, or something that you might hate, or something that you favor, or have loyalty or fealty to, or a cause. But at the same time, at the end of the day, it's still the same truthful base information. Our experiences with the Draco. Do we go and try to outright stop them in places when we see them? Do we just walk up to them and go, hey, no, me and Elaine are more lovers, not fighters. There are others that can handle that. Were there beings recently disguising themselves as defenders? Yes. He called one the Cobra Commander. That was more of it was an appropriate name because it was an Orion reptilian Nordic of fairly ancient origins. An annoyance, I must say. But more, let's just say more photoshopped physique and creepy. We'll just put it that way. He falls under kind of a Draco presence as well. But with that said, excuse me. With that said, psionic field intrusion. Give me one moment. Now, where was I? Yes, the experiences with the MTTF. Have they invaded other timelines? I have to say no to this. They are within your timeline, but other universes have variations. He even saw a universe where him and Joanna were in it was like almost like a horse and buggy timeline or a colonial looking timeline where that was the style everywhere. And it was an Earth called Lindar where he saw Joanna and him being lifted up on chairs. That was more like a Jewish wedding type of situation. Now, then he was in a carriage where he had a servant that was driving them places. And he saw that there were these reptilians in colonial garb. That was a different variety in that particular universe that were more human looking. The ones that are closest to that variety, those are green in that universe with tricorn hats on, the same thing with the whole early colonial American look and English look. And the ones here that are more human looking are more of a hybrid between human and Draco that have the flat faces. Those are slightly more dangerous than their bigger counterpart because those can actually utilize the human mammalian imagination type of abilities, where now they're reptilian, but they have mammalian co-creative capabilities. Those are slightly more dangerous than their original counterparts. They're not in charge of things, mind you. The most dangerous of the lot are the avian variety. But the classic types that you're talking to now, the David Icke types, other than the Anunnaki, hybridic types, are Draco, getting you to become your smaller self versus your larger self, being you to be less confident about yourself, depressive, angry, hateful, and seeing everybody as your enemy. Those types. You have the crocodilian raptor, and you have the hybridized, slightly shorter ones that have the blue and black scales. Some of them even look Caucasian and also like a black person as well. They don't look, some people have seen Oriental types, but that is actually a different variety of alien. That is not a Draco type. And some are of the elongated skull variety. Some have Untoman DNA hybridization in there. That's where some of the Japanese royal family comes from, but I'm not going to get into that currently. What I'm talking about is the hybridized version can make themselves look almost like Fabio. In a way, almost Photoshop. That's what the other Cobra Commander guy kind of was, but he mainly used the psionic field, not shape-shifting. There are some that have the shape-shifting where they can move the molecules in them. Those were more genetically bred. Also, you have the Tern, which are technically a reptoid type that were genetically engineered from the time of the Great Seeding. That's not a Draco type either. They're greenish and they have like different colors. They have brown skin. They look more like an exotic, like half black, half white person sometimes. But the two main proponents in the Draco Reptilians are the crocodilian raptor type and the hybridized type. The dangerous one is the avian. You have the aquatic Draco one, which is, he calls them the trans Draco. We found that hilarious. They look like gender nondescript. They're not as big of a problem now. The forest people and everyone has assisted in that. And you have some of the shorter Draco Reptilians, he calls them midget Draco, that come in to check on implants that are in people and mind fuck people within their house, enforcing how can I put this? A code or a tripwire, a frequency tripwire, that then they report back to the larger Draco that, hey, this person is thinking a certain thing, not unlike the unfavorable semicircle mouth lice and the Men in Black, that they know what you're thinking. Let's just say they know when you're asleep, they know when you're awake, they know when you've been bad or good. So it doesn't really matter whether you've been good, for goodness sake, they know about it. So with this, not a Santa Claus bashing thing or another bashing thing, I'm just saying. Now, I'm not saying be paranoid and watch your thoughts, but also watch your thoughts and actions. It is very important that you do not give in, even on the smallest level, of something that is not yourself. This is how you defeat them.
Yeah, and I just want to add that I hate the term new normal, because normal is just normal.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So maybe we could talk about the Fallen Empire and its event. From what we understand from talking with Odin, and his explanation was that the planet Draconis was destroyed at one point. And maybe you can explain what happened there. What did the planet crack? Was it rendered uninhabitable? What happened? And then when we say Fallen Empire, was that exactly more of they broke up into clans? They had to live in other places, and where they split up at the time. And I know I'm asking multiple questions, but who benefited from that fall in gaining territory or maybe controlling them? And what would you say would be the biggest misconception for viewers on some of what that, when we say Fallen Empire, what it actually means today?
Yes, Fallen Empire, yes. So it means, yes, they did scatter into other tribes. They used to be a unifying force back in the times of the Orion Wars. They would have the flare of an armor, like almost like this heavy, like metal, iron-looking armor. And now the beings that are around now might have certain clan affiliations painted on them, but they're just stealing armor they found. The Draco Homeworld, the Draconis, is fractured down to its mantle. This was orbital bombardment that did this. So it split pieces off of it that are just kind of hanging there in like a semi-gravitational orbit from sky to space to ground. Is there equipment there that can be salvaged? Yes, it's salvaged all the time. Are there Draco currently there at the moment? No. It is not necessarily just uninhabitable. No one wants to clean it up and reuse it. They want to salvage it down to its last molecule. Salvage crews are out there constantly. Some of the Draco that are around still defend it. They see it as their ancient homeland. So there is territorial wars that are involved in that, and skirmish. I shouldn't say wars, skirmishes with different factions of the Draco. But they're mainly scattered. The Fallen Empire, essentially, they have different queens and kings that lead different clans. There's not many clans left, though. Sometimes they're scattered as Ronin or individuals that just gather supplies as they go along. And it's mainly there in packs. Sometimes the ones that are on Earth have small packs and cliques that are around them. Or here's another one that people did not know from the last episode. They tend to frequent different psychic gathering events like fairs, conferences, things of this nature. If people have invited in, like I said, the aforementioned saint names, that is mainly Orion, but at the same time, with the pointy-eared, white, elfish-looking, creepy guys, more on the vampire side of the spectrum, but like more Nosferatu. But with this, they tend to mimic a lot of times your different saintly figure types and give you advice that goes in a circle. Now, on a galactic side, what does this look like? Shattered fallen empire, scattered tribes to the four winds. They are sterile, so therefore they've been trying to reactivate their ability to have babies. Yes, some have laid eggs on Earth. The Earth has provided them both live birth and egg-laying capabilities. Not like a Yoshi type figure in your Mario Brothers, I mean, similarly, but only think like the eggs a raptor had in Jurassic Park when Professor Grant pulls out the baby raptor. Very similar, and other than live birth, almost like a serpent. There is a serpent type too, a serpentine type. Those are more, that's more of a Naga. They are servants to the demigod Echidna, who is not as powerful as she claims to be, I might add. Not a Draco. She is something else. She has Draco hybridized. She's part Draco, part Naga, snake, serpentine. So she is technically a Draco type. Now, if you saw her, she'd just be ugly no matter what. But I'm just saying, and has temples sporadically in tourist towns. Your Virginia Beach and your Lake Havasu City are two of the top ones, unfortunately, that have temples in them. If you see a statue of the Mother Mary with a snake tail, that's one to Echidna. That's the church that's in both places has this. But anyway, one's been removed recently. So, but with, on his side of the spectrum here, but with in space, they're just more like marauders. The ones that would be more dangerous are these fish-like ones that are out there that him and Ryan mentioned in his not necessarily just Warhammer, but it was also the conversation about different video games. This would be the Terminids, they were called in the video game sequence. But these are more like Hulk smash if you wanted something blown up and destroyed. And they were the ones that were used to destroy part of the Draco Homeworld. It was orbital bombardment, but these guys were sent in to just Hulk smash and just basically, it's kind of a rape, pillage, and plunder type of thing, but only destroy everything. Now, if you wanted to salvage anything, you don't use these guys, but if you wanted to utterly destroy something, you take them out of deep freeze somewhere and point in a direction. Not the smartest move in the world because some get out of there and you have a bigger problem on your hands if you had these, what the video games, Helldivers called the Terminids, but Helldivers 2 rather. This is what sometimes is used if they're hired out if something like that is needed. Beyond that, the scattering of the tribes. It seems more randomized, but at the same time, some marauding groups will invade a ship and basically eat the crew. Some people have said this in the RSSP experience where they could not get to a ship in time. He even saw a memory of his where they couldn't get to a ship in time. He calls it the dying of the light memory, based on the Tolstoy poem. But with this, I hope this answered.
Yeah, it does. But I have a follow-up around these clans or tribes. Could you define, like, operationally bloodlines, ideology? Is there any kind of shared hive mind, or are they more corporate factions? Mm-hmm. And do they have any kind of insignia or markings or language behavior that marks between those different tribes or clans?
Yes, your British royal family is interwoven into that. A little bit of human hybridization in there. Your Queen Elizabeth II was in that bloodline, and Elizabeth I line. Basically, the British and Scottish king lines have that woven in. And I said some of the Japanese royal family have some of the reptilian woven in there as well. that created a whole new hybridization. The Insignia are different. Like say Echidna, for instance, I'll just use her as an example, has a crescent moon for her symbol. It's usually now the London Bridge symbol. That is hers. Some of them have been corporatized, where they are essentially controlling different corporate heads. Now, some of it's V2K again, some of it's Orion, some of it is other alien factions. I'm not going to give Orion and Draco 100% credit, but some of the Cabal family heads, yes, have reptilian in them, and they have Orion and Anunnaki type lineages. Some had Odinson DNA spliced in there as well. Because of the lineage, I don't want to say spliced, but from a lineage it got corrupted with some of the draconian invader DNA and also a GG type DNA. But there are different symbols associated with different Orion clans. Yes, those are broken up into clans too. They are marauding types that, as he showed in the Tartaria episode with Jeremy Irons' look, from the Time Machine. But aside from that conversation, the Insignia, the different Draco clans have reptilian ones that tend to be underground in lava tubes. That's why they stink of sulfur. That's why demons tend to stink of sulfur. They sometimes are not always in a different frequency from you. They just use their psionic abilities to mask the fact that they are present in the room. Just like what Kubla Khan said to you quite a while back, you were picking them up because they were standing there. That was his smart-ass response. About the Tartaria episode, because the reptilian group was literally standing right there, off that way actually then. But the different insignia, some you may recognize, some you may not. The Echidna one, like I said, that's the symbol of that particular demigod, and the Draco sometimes will serve these different demigods. So they will mimic the different symbol of theirs, but as if it was an independent clan. There is a crescent moon, a symbol that you are familiar with in the Muslim world. There is also a variation of it in Russia currently with the USSR original insignia with the sickle and hammer. That is actually a draconian symbol. Also, your current iteration of Putin has reptilian in him. That is the only world leader I'm going to identify in this struggle. Now, with this, there are, if you see any variations of crescent moons, hammers, and sickles, those tend to be not necessarily coming up from like a farming perspective like some of them are. If you see any form like that tends to be draconian, minus that of Thor's hammer, that is, I'm not going to bash him, but if you see that some of that symbolism, they have tried to take that away, and essentially they are the hammer cracking down, very much like, the word draconian in your culture. If a law is overly draconian, that means it is overly strict and cruel. In some way, they have made your dictionary, your Webster's and English Oxford Dictionary. So cracking the hammer down, meaning a law that is overly strict and possibly unjust in its nature, that is being draconian in nature. That is how they affected your language. And I wish to also separate Draco from dragon, even though Draco is the root word. They are a totally separate species that does not like being linked to soul-eating vampires. Just saying.
Right. Just want to talk a little bit about the tech and control behind some of them. We know that they were infected with black goo, and I think in the last show we were talking a little bit about the Nano core. And that it had, there was, it was a connection as well to the AI that they somewhat serve in that aspect. How does how do the maybe the Ryans or people who are controlling more the demigods control and bypass some of that, or I know we've talked about the black goo is pretty much gone, where they've been trying to find more of it. But is it still in a lot of these Draco Reptilians?
Actually, in some cases, yes, but very few of them. If they're being assholes, they are doing it of their own free will and volition. at this point in time. At least there are some of them that the Orions, in very few number, are also controlling them. Just like you saw in the Time Machine with Guy Pearce and Jeremy Irons, where Jeremy Irons' character was controlling those man-eating lizards with his telepathy, and when Guy Pearce's character kills him, this made the others go out of control and want to eat everything and every person. This is essentially the nanocore and psionic behavior of the Orions would keep the feral side in check, which that was absolutely true the way they depicted that in that movie, even though it was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of years in the future. And also, some of these things do come from different times, just like they showed Jeremy Irons' character intricately quantumly linked to Guy Pearce's character, where he caused the very event that which caused him to create time travel to eventually meet him in the future. So this also has to go with the discussion of Lanulos and the rest of them, whereas what was said to you guys in private, that if you become your optimum self, then you are in that optimum timeline by which then the good chains of events take place. That is true of every person everywhere, but those that are in the programs more so. But not to divert, the nano core that is in some of these beings is just sitting dormant in some of them. Sometimes it's there's soul energy trapped in there. They are technically a type of demon, and the remainders of the black goo are mainly in container form on display in places, but some Dracos still contain it, and after a while it will just wither and die. But when this happens, those Draco become feral, almost like animals. Very much, he's comparing it to a cartoon he saw when he was younger called Dinosaurs, where they were these dinosaur type beings that there were good guys and bad guys. And the good guys basically turned one of the bad guys into a feral dinosaur and could not change him back. It's very similar to that. They would have to be retaught and taught again to become something better. They don't have that kind of time to enter into this. And are there any that could reproduce? Yes, the hybridized ones, the ones that was spoken about before, the half-human ones, or the part-human ones, and also the German-looking ones with the blonde hair and the scales, like he mentioned in his SSP time, where him and some buddies were tormenting this reptilian pilot. And he basically tried to beat the crap out of him. He came back, shocked him with a cattle prod deal, and tried to throw him out an airlock. But beating up one of them basically gains their favor, kind of like almost like a Klingon in a way. Or like what was said in Doctor Who, where he said some will weep at the dying of a flower, or a word, a spoken word, or basically kill you in battle. And then the companion goes, just like the Vikings, and he says, yes, they're because Viking DNA was spliced into some of them in German DNA, and voila, you have some blonde-haired reptilian hybrids, but also you have some black variation, African-looking variation, and some regular Caucasian varieties and variants in there. Those are the ones that can reproduce, though they are annoying. But the original variety are sterile.
Right. So there's somewhat of a call it a mask or of operations propaganda that is being used around the Draco Reptilians, and there's a lot of claims that we want to touch on that are maybe false and outdated or mixed up. We know that one of them, which we've talked about with the Fallen Empire, is that they rule 3/4 of the galaxy. Was one that's out there, and they do it through fear. But it does seem like there's a lot of groups that actually want to keep this going here on Midgard, especially the 3-letter agencies. Maybe you can explain why that is and what some of the propaganda really is that is getting served as a mixed message that is untrue.
Yes, they do not rule 2/3 of the galaxy. That is an overbloated, let's just say, bit of wiener waving on their part. At one time, that was true. That was at one time with the Orions was true. Yes, they have different areas that they have conquered, but very much like like the Orions have some of the knee of Cassiopeia, and they have some areas in different galaxies and different solar systems. But it's sporadic, and they cannot use a Stargate network to really connect anymore. So, with that said, the propaganda is, oh, we're your slaves on a prison planet, and they will not allow humans past the Kuiper Belt. That is 100% bullshit. Because yes, the Kuiper Belt is another part of the firmament, and the technology of rocketry cannot get past the firmament outside your atmosphere and the moon. Then you have to have portal tech. That is true, but at the same time, the Draco basically saying go, you can go no further is propaganda. Now there are people that were in the SSP that believe that the reptilians are ruling the system. Does Jupiter have some reptile presence and Draco presence on it? Yes, just like what was said in your Jupiter Ascending, and showed the Orion bad guy that was in it. They look a little bit more like you in like they show in the movie. But then you have, of course, the Nosferatu varieties as well. But they showed the Draco as having a base there. That is actually true. It's an ancient structure that is on Jupiter that they project crap from every now and again. But is it one that they can use all the time? No, it's just old technology that they are using that has no means of complete repair. So it would take humans to augment, just like you see in Stargate Atlantis, where they operated Atlantean technology through laptops and such, which is slightly impractical. You would have to have a closer variation of technology, just like the reason your technology on Earth is being hyper accelerated so that it matches somewhat to what is out there, but also out there in the galaxy, one of the standards of Galactic Federation inclusion. But also some of your AI wishes to come in that way too, which that's a different conversation. But them ruling 2/3 of the galaxy, that involved in your government propaganda, that is government propaganda because of the fact they want people spooked enough to not talk to good races that are out there in the galaxy, because they want to control things down here. They do not want Earth included in the planetary network because of the fact that these propagandistic type groups, these Kabbalist groups, occultist groups, and demigods would all lose their foothold, because under Galactic Federation laws, and not all of them are great, there's a lot of loopholes in there. I'm not defending all of them, and there's radical DEI crap in with a faction of it. I do not condone. Elena do not condone, and Thorzen and Kara and the rest of us do not condone this. But at the same time, and on the same thread, if that were to happen, these demigods would be called out on their behavior. Now, I must say that, as he said in the beginning, if you're going to complain to the galactic courts, do so and show it as a global ramification. Your individual complaining is worth something if they see if it has a global ramification. If it's just you going through some shit, they consider it whining. They would just say, put your big boy and girl panties on. If they saw it as something beyond your capability of removing, they would act. But also, if you have to say something more needs of the many outweigh the needs of the one or the few, and then they will listen further. They see it as a form of selfishness if you're just thinking of just yourself, but they understand the value of the individual and they sympathize. Don't think that there isn't sympathy there. But some of them wish to test and teach, and it can be overbearing and obnoxious and retarded. Just saying, because I know they're hearing me, I actually complain too, because it splits families up when they do this crap. So, bullet point: three-letter agency propaganda that the Draco ruled the galaxy. They have chronovisored, like with your Vatican chronovisor. They've chronovisored and seen it was happening. So they're saying is happening, but also think of relativity. Some people believe that it's currently happening because they actually have seen it vision-wise. What time frame are you looking at? That's the thing. In the now, there's also relativity to consider. Something that you're looking at, a star that you're looking at in the distance, may not be there. right now, but it is there to your sight. That's sometimes how sometimes sometimes quantum entanglement will entangle you to a previous expression from long ago when something was happening, and you have a fear surrounding it. Just like he says, you think it's ahead of you when it's behind you, and it's an undealt with past in your soul's history or within your Earth history, and you're picking up on something as if it's happening because everything everywhere is happening all at once. I know that's used as a cudgel or a bit of a cliche point, but it is still true nonetheless.
Right. If I can take a moment to diverge from the topic of the reptilians to the galactic courts, because when you brought it up, I think it's a new subject for some of our viewers, and it's because Chris has recently visited the galactic courts to give some grievances, and so has David, and maybe just to understand a little bit about the galactic courts, because we've also understood that the Senate, that there's finally some of humanity's representatives. I shouldn't say humanity, more of Midgard or Earth's representatives, which would be the Force people, to join the Senate recently. But how does that all work? And is it part of what you would call the Galactic Federation? Is this what's managing the courts, and somehow we're bound to some sort of set of rules with that?
Yes, bound is more too strong a word, but yes, they see Earth as an ancient territory. At least a lot of these different groups do. Think of the Galactic Senate very much like your Parliament or Congress. They tend to shout at each other, and it gets quite loud in that chamber. You would go deaf in there if they get really going. It's discouraged. Let's just say it'd be like if you were dinging a bell over someone's head. You would feel it for days and weeks after that. I don't begrudge Fuma and Seymour at all the task that they are performing. They have to be very, very depressed at times. But especially having to see the Never Wazes or one of the other Orion variants, the Princes of the Universe there, that's got to be maddening, because they were on enemy fences forever and still are out in the open. But the Senate, the way this is set up, think of how your setup is, where you have a Supreme Court and you have the Senate and House of Representatives. Skip the House of Representatives for a minute, and you would have, say, put it in a Roman Senate style, or like you see in your Star Wars prequel movies, where they're sitting in the little floating chairs, essentially, where they would one would pull out so that all of them could hear. Yes, this is exactly how that is set up. The courts themselves hear the bitches and grievances. You give your testimony either in dreamtime, light body form, or physically, and and also sometimes the oversoul is spoken to, and the records are seen as to what that person's mission is. And sometimes you can actually see that, sometimes not. Also, through your DNA, the way the Ebens showed your three-letter agencies was in order to create a video of someone's genetic history, they turned the amino acids into ones and zeros, and were able to view someone's genetic history, so they knew where to place them within the SSP. Example would be if you had a lot of warrior ancestry and past lives, since that's in the genetic memory as well. That would come up. You would be a super soldier. Medical, same thing. Slave, sexual slave. Either one of those would be considered the same thing. In the false incarnation grid, the Orions and the Ebans. Well, the Ebans later used it, but the Orions set it up. Now, bitches and grievances. As I said, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the one or the few. The only way you're going to get the Senate's attention with actually, let's just say, structuring an argument, meaning globally, like the Forest people said, you're quarantining, not necessarily quarantining, wrong choice of words, the exclusion of Earth in the galactic community is hurting people that have galactic access, very much like the Forest people, very much like the Myrmidon, very much like some of the Agarthan tribes, some of the, say, Lyra or Irma type tribes, and the people that come and go and have families here, and let's just say lovers, wives, husbands, etc., and family, mothers, fathers. People want to be able to come and go. Also, some of the elf groups are affected as well, and also some of the Orion groups and other people out there are being how can I put it, are being exploited because it's the wild, wild west with no rule structure in that way. And you also have your Kabbalists that have really entrenched themselves familially for a long time. Other ships also get in danger, from time to time. Now, tricksters like your low-key or lobotomy, let's just call him that, he needs one, actually, he acts like he's already had one. But anyway, anyhow, he recently brought, and David brought to the Galactic Courts about him and some tricksters like the Cobra Commander guy that he was mentioning before. And the courts would say this is just a personal issue of discernment at that point. The test range still applies, but you say global ramifications will listen to your story, and both of them have. But now this goes to the Galactic Senate, whereas a representative in this instance then brings it to the Senate's attention. Sometimes you'll have just a bunch of he calls them nose pickers or pick nosers sitting there going, do we have to hear this again? And then others, after Isaac's passing, unfortunately, looked this way because certain forces, unchecked on Earth, were able to intrude into different dimensional spaces and planetary spaces they did not belong, using old dimensional networks that were long since dormant. This got the Galactic Senate's attention because of the fact not only Isaac being used as almost a typhoid Mary, but the Orions making it look worse in some areas and better in some areas than it actually was. That's what some of you have encountered. Looking in some areas overly worse, and in some areas overly better, and not having a shade of gray, no pun intended, that it's really shades of gray, where yes, people make good decisions, people make bad decisions, or they'll make bad decisions for good reasons and good more selfish decisions for bad reasons. Where everyone's no different than yourselves. Lanulos might be peaceful. Yes, some people would call it an idyllic paradise, especially with the naked thing. But on top of this, yes, we strive to have it that way. We wouldn't have to have guards if there weren't crime. We wouldn't happen to have to have some kind of structure in that way if there weren't crime. We wouldn't happen to have we wouldn't need our neighbors like New Asgard, Valhalla, and the Engun Homeworld to actually help out if we didn't need that kind of protection ourselves. But it doesn't mean that we're always vulnerable and weak, and it doesn't mean that we're always galactics are always ready to jump to like humans have been taught. Case in point, guardian angel mentality. Whereas they were at least told that they would jump to. And he was given some false information years ago about what he called the fire department or police or department or EMTs, where they would jump to help. Yes, there are galactic cops out there that do patrol. Yes, there are groups that are similar to the Mozan, similar, even if they were manipulated quite a bit, they're no different than you. By they did with the Cobra Commander. Also, your valiant Thor Venusian colonies tend to be very overbearing in that way. But with that said, and also some of the same families, I might add, and Orion influence galore. But with that said, can your benevolent allies always step in and go, please help me, like like calling on Saint Michael, for instance, or those saints like Gabriel and all of them? No, that system was set up to where you would not try to solve the situation yourself. And the courts will not listen to an instance of what they consider whining on that part. I disagree with their assessment that there should be some protectorate fully incorporated. But it is not always possible. Earth will have to create a lot of these things. Even though there's sporadic clans that do help you out and beings that help you out, like the Untumbans, some of the monkey people, like Wukong's people, some of the good Mozen factions, militaristic factions, even good SSP factions are helping and hearing these things and helping out. But it doesn't mean, like with the Velodians, when they said they were like this big, massive medical corps that was waiting to help humanity, but all they were doing was waiting on the word. That, I have to say, is a steaming pile of bullshit. But did we always know the extent of the bullshit stink? No. and we are no different than yourselves. This also shows the range, and yes, this will be people will be shocked to hear this, where we don't always see or hear and read the Akejic. He was like, can't you read the Akejic when you show up and step onto a place? No, we don't always know the context, unless you are putting it out there and quantumly and you're transmitting that. People assume that omnipotence is bred from what? Exactly. Except benevolent source creator, which I must say, as you guys were saying in private, that the reason there is an oversoul and an avatar is because you are basically the made manifest of your soul here that doesn't always see every intricacy. He always says the soldier on the ground going through the apartment building and the helicopter pilot up in the sky that cannot see, even if it sees through the building, cannot see every room and every object and every person or pet or place or thing. It is a vibrational thing that steps down, further down, very much like an electrical plant, electrical substation, house. Like when you pump electricity from a plant, you need a substation to dial it down to the house, or else your house would burst into flames. It's very much like your fourth Indiana Jones movie, where the Russian lady wanted to have all the alien knowledge, and she incinerated and atomized. That's exactly what I'm talking about right there.
Yeah, that is well explained. We were conceptualizing that the true benevolent source creator has a bit of a blind spot in this as well. Would you say that's true?
Absolutely. And the Draco will make you think otherwise, that everything is seen. He knows when you're awake and knows when you're sleeping. Spirit, same difference. There are different levels of spirit. You have levels of privacy, folks. Not every little action. No, they cannot see you touching yourself at night. Let's just put it that way. That's what you're afraid of. And that is not happening unless that's what you want. But in this instance, I had to bring that point across because that is the biggest fear. Everybody says they're watching me have sex. No, unless you have a creeper that is doing this, doing this, or if it's someone good that you have invited in to participate, like in any normal situation. True benevolent source creator does have a bit of a blind spot in this, so calling that name in, don't just as he likes to say. People always say God knows everything. He says just for shits, act as if he doesn't. Yes, the true benevolent source creator may know everything and know what the oversouls know. But there is a blind spot by which then calling that in. Why would you have to call the energy in if it already knew? So right. That said, yes, spirit knows all this and you plan things out before you come here. But at the same time, it's like that show Travelers, where the people in the future had a plan, but then they needed the person here in this time to actually basically say what was mis and disinformation and what they had wrong. And they didn't want to admit they had anything wrong in that time frame. They said, oh, their intelligence was absolute. There is a time delay, think relativity in space and time, but quantum, everything is here. Spirit knows what your mission parameters are. Yes, true benevolent source creator knows all of those things. But the only way it knows all of these things is because you exist here, and you're existing here. Therefore, you are a manifest of your oversoul, which is a manifestation of your oversoul, which is a manifestation of true benevolent source creator. And creator and source by itself is made up of any and all things. Therefore, the way it learns is through the multiverse experiencing, and also in your timelines and in your universe and multiverse and everything, and omniverse and super omniverse, different variations on a theme, good, bad, ugly, and all between. Why would true benevolent source creator or source need to experience even the Orions with their timeline, ending and dissolving because it was so damn dark? Why would a creator need to do that? Because experience and expansion. And how would it expand? Because it needed you as that medium to be here experiencing those things. That is how that operates in that expanding creator, true benevolent source creator, but is what you want to call upon. God tends to call on the nutless wonder boy, unfortunately. So you don't know which God you're getting, and about a third of them were him. Let's just put it that way. Either from big muscle bound god of king of the gods to wussy little golem guy that you could punch kick down a well. So, and we would like to and have, but with this, our precious, he's not. Let's just put it that way. And in this instance, though, the way the source learns is benevolent source creator, but it also must learn by being all parts of both dark and light and neutral and all in between. People try to label it this, but the multiverse is the ultimate label because all choice is in everything everywhere all at once, infinite diversity in infinite combinations. So if you're walking in this timeline and you do not like how things are going, yes, you are jumping to new ones. Yes, you are experiencing that change through the Mandela effect by which you are walking through life. I hope this was helpful.
Yes. This was a lot of the conversation we had yesterday in a session Chris and I were having together. And I appreciate you bringing it up. We might actually share some of that as well. One of the things that we kind of learned with that was that source creator is also learning, which people have talked about to say it is learning both sides of good and evil, understanding it, and that's part of what it is all growing. And I think some people have always thought certain beings, gods, they've become that because it's all their avatars and lifetimes that they've had has grown to become that person, and it's always felt like it's maybe done. That's who they are. Mm-hmm. They've already got all these abilities that they've earned and grown through time, but they're always learning, is what we learned. Sometimes they're actually having a lifetime. We learned that Odin had to do this as well, where he had a lifetime just as a bartender. I think it was in Scotland or Ireland, something like that. And it was a simple life just to help ground and to balance himself. And so we were talking yesterday about my oversoul, Braun and Wodar, and I felt that change happened with Wodar, that there's more of a connection there, that there's a change that's happening because of events that have more recently happened. And that was very interesting that was happening, and therefore Braun was growing with this information. Is there anybody who ever feels that they don't have to grow, or is there always some form of growth and learning that everybody is doing out there?
Oh, there's multiple layers of this. They might be omniversal in nature, but there are some that go, I'm good. Other ones that go, no, I'm going to keep expanding. It's no different than you. Think of it as like your memories of Lonulus and Tartaria as remembering in reverse. You're getting memories that from your perspective have not occurred yet, but yet they have. They're part of your past. But at the same time, from where you stand on the timelines, they may not physically may not have occurred yet, but yet they physically have. Yeah, that may seem like a paradox, but this is how the soul grows. This is how you expand and grow. And also then when you leave this world, let's just put it that way, you then have the ability to come home again and then bring that experience back from the planetary system from whence you came. And when that is said, this is an expansion and a growth. And yes, there's trauma associated with this that you'll have to heal from, of course. But with this, it is very difficult for me to put this in a term that you would understand. Yes, I'm accessing a library as we're talking, but also I'm accessing the knowledge of the MDTF, where some things, as he said, you think are ahead of you and they're behind you. And yes, they are. Now, memories of a civilization that has high technology and you were a part of maybe an ancient war or something like that, yes, that's past. But say you also have memories of a high technology in time and space somewhere. Sometimes that could be in the future. And that's also like with the future kind. Sometimes people are picking up on that Earth and they're wondering why things aren't the same, because you're here to help build that. So, and bring that link. You insert yourself here as a plan to help build towards that goal. As rough as things get, you are here to experience those things in order to correct them, no matter what butt brains you run across, from lice to low-key to corrupted soldiers to what have you, to being the cheese to what have you. What are the things that needed to be corrected, the checklist by which they needed to be corrected, and the concepts by which needed to be amended, and the yields by which needed to be unhinged? This is the learning experience. Many people think this is a school because of this. Yes, but some people have dreams of being in schools, things of that nature. That is more of a trap where you sometimes will accept over excessive draconian punishments and lessons and tests. Let me reiterate. That's where you accept draconian tests, lessons, and just all around bullshit. So just know that some of it's bullshit, just like what your Corey Good said with your blue avians being in a school constantly. And then you have the matrixers that are out there, I'll call them, hashtag the matrixers in this, whereas they think you are in a simulation or you're in a prison planet. Neither one is true. Somebody is trying to get you into that timeline where you become that. Neither one is true, and I would recommend not toting that anymore, that party line anymore than you have to, because it is propagandized information.
Right. You know, it makes me think about when we called in a session Balder, because I had a memory of doing some things with him. And Balder came in and corrected us that he was actually like to be called Poseidon at this time, but he was also known as Enki. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because he's gone through multiple names, and it's because his oversoul has changed through so many of those times, and that change has created a new name. We got to think about the period of time that we're talking about here is tremendous. Mm-hmm. And new name is not a different concept. That's where I think people get mixed up to who they're calling on or who they're working with, because some of them are the same being with multiple names.
Yes, and when as well, because a different time frame has a different frequency, like your Giorgio character in your Star Trek Discovery going through an aphasia because she was in they had time traveled, and some people go through temporal aphasia. Think of that. They said each time frame had a frequency. That is absolutely 100%. Because of the fact that after they've gone through a metamorphosis, so I didn't say transmutation or transconfiguration, which the words still apply. I'm just trying to get rid of the transphobic garbage out of it. Propaganda-wise, that is. With this, like him saying his name was Poseidon, he was actually re-entering the frequency by which he had started. A name is a powerful seal. You change your name and you change your I am presence. That is a powerful seal. This is why the bad guys out there wanted to create the theys and thems, because it skewed the I am. So with that said, when Enki decided no longer to use his name Enki and he went back to Poseidon, that means he was expanding his perceptions and perspectives back to what he was prior to actually being I don't want to say enslaved, but also coming down in vibration when he was him and his brother were kicking each other in the nutsack. So with that said, they were also creating a matrix type of technology on Atlantis that the Orions were spoon feeding them across time, essentially fucking up the vibration here, also going across to the times of the Great Seeding, and the Untumbans then in their time loop tried to correct it as well, as they said before. But with this said, as you go through time, think about it this way. Would the you now recognize the you from 20 years ago? I would think not. You naturally go through this metamorphosis, and you may not identify with a certain name after a while. You may not identify And the oversoul is this way too. And we say oversoul, but this is what you become. This isn't necessarily what you just came from. You came from a timeless realm, but this is also what you become. And it's not like you're going back to spirit ascending and then dying and all this other stuff. No, 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 no. This is the evolution of the soul. Spirit is timeless. Of course, you're going to see the effect before the cause, if this makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we've talked a lot about because the ascension narrative out there is misused, and it's creating an issue where we're going through these cycles constantly, and to understand, we use a lot of terms on the show, and if you want us to explain any of them because they're from past shows and things that we've named and concepts, just comment below and we'll definitely answer any of them. But maybe you can explain, the MDTF is the Multidimensional Task Force. What is it that the group is doing, and what do you do with the MDTF, Vessa?
I'm more of an archivist, so is Elena. We work in the same room together. If you saw the room we were in, it would be more of an ovular-shaped room with one opening, and it has a computer for archiving all the different incidents. Let's just put it that way. We don't always work on that, but we work on the different cases, and we also noticed that as much as he doesn't want to hear this, we have worked on his case as well. He noticed when he took a trip to Lanulos in a vision sequence that we were looking at a pad that his house was showing, and it said there was a disease or something like that had been present or something, and he couldn't read the entire pad, and that was our doing, and that was on purpose. But to be able to remote view and read something fully and completely puts a target on your back, and that is a form of protection. And so with that said, where he was temporarily, let's just put it, askew. So originally, yes, an assignment, and then became more soul family and was more soul family oriented past that point. Before Elena beats me to death, I will not say further. But in this instance, I must say that correcting, basically course correcting some of these different temporal instances, not unlike Time Core, but we don't work directly with them. The Void does, but then they work with us, but we don't directly always work with Time Core unless we absolutely must. Think TVA in the Loki TV series. And it was very appropriate that they made him the god of stories, because that is the egocentric space in which he'd always wanted, just like Lorcan in your Elder Scrolls, the god of dreams in that. Same thing, a different day, different, same archetype, a different genre. One sci-fi, one medieval fantasy. But I'm skewing the... can you repeat some of your original premise, please?
So I was asking about the MDTF and just what you were doing and what the
yes,
about.
Yes. So with the MDTF, if you saw me on we'll just say quote unquote business day, we walk into MDTF headquarters, or we're on board ship. NDTF headquarters looks like the 30s Mickey Spillane timeline, and it's a parallel universe, and it's mainly female that work there. There are male that work there as well. Cops, think of like the old 30s Mickey Spillane or Dixon Hill look in your Star Trek lore, or Mike Hammer in your actual Mickey Spillane lore. This is also what he was picking up with the RoboCop series, where there's some robots, people in that are more transhumanistic, operating very much like RoboCop. And also in the SSP, there were people's brains that were put into, sometimes against their will, into robotic forms, which Joanna also had a memory come to her where all these people of color were put into that situation. The Martian Germans don't like people of color. So what happened was they gassed them, but made sure they weren't afraid. And basically, Joanna remembers hearing somebody say, this is where the head is separated from the body. This is where the SSP used the technology. In the MDTF, there's people like RoboCop running around there, and that was their personal choice. very much like a character in your lower decks that had the eyepiece, and in another universe he looked like RoboCop. That was also an insertion of that idea. But if you saw us on a regular day, we would be very much like in the show Andor, where you see the one of the archivists archiving the Imperial tech, or you saw that in Ahsoka and Mandalorian and them. Like that, sitting at a desk doing this, but we are in this ovular room. She's on one side, I'm on another, operating a central computer by which we then are archiving and checking bits of the exegetial tree. Very much like that very well done graphic that you did, Bjorn, of me looking at the exegetial tree. That's essentially what that looks like, with a glass looking interface. Has that clear glass, like glass pad looking interface. Your SSP has the glass pad interfaces where he saw in a doctor's office, where when the doctor closed a door in the SSP, it all got cloudy for a minute, and actually saw data all around the room showing and on the floor and everything, what the anatomy looked like, basically like a healing room. Essentially like your three-letter agencies will close a door and it goes all cloudy. That's essentially, so people can't see through. The door opens, breaks the circuit, makes it clear. It's the same tech. But the more advanced version is at MDTF headquarters. It's very similar, but it's holographic photonic in nature, except for the solid walls inside the facility. And also on the ship, there is an ovular room that is very much like this. So he's mistaken seeing one for the other because it is very similarly based.
On these ships, we'll get back to the reptilian conversation, but on these ships, do you have a device that actually does the time travel or time slip?
Yes, essentially like a handheld device. I would assume you're saying yes. Yes, very similar to like on Loki. That's more time core that has this, but do we have something similar that we time slip, and could we protect from time slippage? That's the main part. And can we use the portal to go home again and back and forth and have no time differential between? Yeah. Oh, yes. Yes, we can. Very much like on your Star Trek Voyager, that had a planet that looked like a donut that was orbiting really quickly, and it was out of temporal sync, whereas somebody would be on Voyager for a while and 50 years passed on the planet. And that would happen to the doctor when he went down. He was down there for 5 or 6 years, or 7 or 8 years, or a decade or something of that nature. And then at the end, they had the technology that synced up to where people could talk across that temporal divide, because the technology had grown so much on that planet in a short period of time. They went into more of a Federation level type technology. Yes. Something like that. That's what portals do. They're everywhere, everything everywhere all at once. So therefore, you pass through a doorway and you can go in real time. And the more the galaxy is opened up to Earth, it'll be in real time. You'll be able to actually go on the schedule by which you normally would go off of, using portal technology in certain ships. But if you were just dependent on the firmament, no, you would be relativity at that point taking over, and it would be like Interstellar. I know this is confusing, but with certain devices and certain ships the way they are, it would just be like distance, like you see in Star Trek. It is actually the reason you don't see relativity in that. That isn't the relativity in that. That isn't because that was incorrect. It was because of the fact of that. Yes, you can travel space if you have certain gauges in place. It's also very much like your Stargate Atlantis, with an ancient ship that had been traveling for 10,000 plus years through space at light speed. And very much like your movie with Robert Urich, The Ice Pirates, by which then they went at light speed and people aged, because it was essentially time travel. Because if it's done wrong, it's very much like your Ant-Man or Scott Lang in your Avengers movie, where he de-aged to a child and went to an old man. So yes, there is a time travel involved, but at the same time, it can be synced up through well-calibrated handheld and or ship-sized devices. temporal drives, they call them sometimes, but it's more like a temporal attenuator or grounding device. Sometimes you also, of course, you can open a portal based on the way an astrological event takes place, knowing a certain thing and going to it. One snag, though, it is illegal because if you do that, you can end the civilization within the timelines, and you can reset timelines. What he was bringing up to Elena, why not reset before the corruption? And she thought that was monstrous, and he didn't realize how monstrous the thought was because it would fuck up everything. Let's just put it that way, including us. So I just wish to point that out.
Right. So I have a question that's back to the draconian race here again. So there's one person that channels a group, which I won't share their name at the moment. I may add it in a comments or something, but they say that they are. They describe themselves as the pure blood military, the highest ranking and dominant version, and are of the larger alpha draconians. They're kind of the royal family, so to speak, and he's channeling them specifically. I think you might already know who I'm talking, but he always brings up that they are the highest level that they can get, which is 6.99 density, and they'd love to share that it's 6.99, like they can't quite reach 7 because they're not allowed to be there, whatever the numbers are. And I know we haven't used numbers, but we do know that there is higher frequency levels. You guys have very clearly said that it doesn't mean anybody is better than other. It's a path towards closer to source, creator. And there is some, creator beings or beings that are in some of these higher levels, but they are saying 6.99, which I sometimes just think of, they're just twisting the demonic 666.
Uh-huh.
What can you tell me about that?
You are absolutely correct, Bjorn. They are shockingly and completely full of shit because of the fact that any being can go to these different realms with the right application of technology and frequency. And this is something that is a hard pill for people to swallow because they felt, certain beings can't be within a certain environment. because it's too holy. That is completely full of shit. That is an Orion concoction. These are different dimensions, not necessarily like going into a star. Your light is not so bright that you'll burn up. Now, this happens with Orions if they are under a particular sunlight. They will burn up. That's where you get the vampires in the sun. And same thing with Draco. Their skin might dry out, or vampires that you've heard of, the Galactic race that's out there will burn up under the sun. That's why some of them come out at night, because they sunburn easily. Or like what was said in Skyrim with the Serena character, can we get out of the sun? It's not good for my complexion, kind of thing. But with this, the flipping over of the 9-9, there is no 699 frequency. They are full of shit. They're trying to say they are the greatest in the galaxy. Same with the Orions like to do. They like to say they're all over. They're people's saviors. They are the truth and the way and the light and all that horse shit. But with that, is he channeling somebody? Yes. Is he channeling somebody that you should trust? No. Are they full of shit? Yes. And final bullet point, if they were to go into one of these other dimensions, what would happen? Absolutely nothing, because they can get into some of these different dimensions and echo their voice a little louder at people. It doesn't mean others like it, and it doesn't mean that somebody wouldn't kick them out of their house or backyard. But they have the tech to be able to cross some of these dimensions into what's considered to be higher dimensions. Can they cross into Elysium, or what you know of as the spirit world? No, because that's where everything is truly safe. Is in spirit, but it's a transitory dimension that goes on to other expressions and dimensions, because that's where the oversouls are. It's omniversal and super omniversal, or as he likes to say in that defunct He-Man movie, where you saw Castle Grayskull on the edge of the edge on the edge of forever, basically, or the cafe on the edge of forever. That is an omniversal point. as well. Same thing was there was a Robert Englund series where he was in a cafe on the edge of a dimensional space that you could create in anything and everything, and every wish fantasy would come true, even dark stuff that would be more on the edge of void, that would be on the edge of omniversal and super omniversal. That's more TVA inspired, like in or Time Core inspired, like in the Loki series. Hope this answered.
Yeah, it does. And the channeler also mentions that he is the exclusivity representative, like he has an authorization contract and permission by the group. But if you go through him to learn how to channel them, he'll show you the process to be able to get authorized. It sounds like it's getting deeply into a contract that we should just say, be careful, people. Don't
very much so. Be careful, be careful, be careful. Because of the fact, again, they are shockingly full of shit. If he signed a contract with them, they've tattooed his arm and they consider him their property. There is a tattoo on his arm that basically says basically slave on it. And sometimes for sexual slaves, they'll put a glyph, very much like your familiars, like in the Blade series, that had on the neck, like the vampires had for their pets, basically had it there. And it's a clan that essentially uses him very much to meet their ends. And in this case, there is, and I must emphasize this bit of propaganda, and we are grateful this has been brought up to break this ice. There is no such thing. And I will reiterate and repeat, there is no such thing as exclusivity to any group, anywhere, at any time, by anyone. The beings that are around you, the good, benevolent, and true benevolent ones with no conflicting agendas, are usually ones it's because they like you, their family, they love you, etc., and they will even lie for you to protect you. There is one, and I won't mention his name, that protects his mother on a famous channel that's out there, that he does lie for her to protect her because that is soul family of hers. Very much like you would protect your children, Bjorn, and your wife, and he would protect Joanna, his mother, and Laverne, and his dog Sammy, and Joanna would protect her family. It is no different. This is people think, oh, guardian angel. If this kind of thing, even though angel is, of course, means messenger, and that usually is Orion connotation, aside from that, and then angel's unaware rule, which is the interference one, if you realize an alien is there, they have to leave. Aside from that, if you are being helped, it's generally by spirit, soul family, and or galactic family members. I just wish to point this out. Or they are a fireman and an arsonist that is actually trying to save you, like the sphere builders in your Star Trek Enterprise, he's saying, playing the role of guardian so they could play the role of the villain later and get them to the Xindi to believe anything and everything. Then you have those types, very much like these Draco, that are manipulating the poor fool into believing that he then can get people locked into these contracts. That's what they want because they are demons. So that and Jinn contracts are part of this as well, where the Jinn get interlocked. This is essentially the Orions that assimilated some of that DNA. This is why in the mythology, basically all angels and demons are Jinn, but not all Jinn are angels and demons, because they were once a proud species that had sovereigns over different dimensional threads and or looms. Sound familiar? That's the fates in your mythology. Any fates that say they are of a loom or a harp, that's where you get the angels in the harp, plucking the threads of fate, or like your kingdoms of Amalur, the threads of fate, the re-reckoning or the reckoning, whichever you prefer. This is that. So, to bullet point. Those Draco that are around that guy are wanting something. If they're saying that you have exclusivity to them, they are selling something. They are a flim-flam artist or a shyster or snake oil salesman. In this case, they are snakes full of oil and they are greasy and they smell like cat piss and sulfur. But in any rate, mostly cat piss. But I'm just saying, ammonia thing is also grays. If you get the cat pissy ammonia smell, there's been grays around. They tend to be coated in this slime. And anyway, some of them are Zeta grays that are robots that even we use as familiars, but or help out in some ways. Even the MDTF uses this. The Zetas provided the technology even to your military, and they have more plasticky looking ones. As he saw in a dream, what looked like space age plastic. Because it's the technology Earth had available to it that the Zetas could combine with yours. But at any rate, I'm going to reiterate one more time. In situations where you were being told exclusivity, it is a binding contract. It is a Faustian pact. I would avoid things like that at all costs. Even in spirit, some spirits, not bashing Michael Jackson at this point in time, but he wanted to come through and say complete truth, which he accomplished. But there were other times where other seers in his name and not his fault were saying they had exclusivity to him. He wants to reiterate now that no, this is not how things work unless somebody is selling something. I just wanted to completely reiterate that.
Yeah, great point. So we had a show where we were talking a little bit about getting shoved in the big toe, and your thoughts aren't yours. Maybe we can end the show with you giving a little bit about what our audience can do to protect themselves if they are starting to channel, or they're getting some information. How do they determine it is from the right being somebody that they actually want to listen to? How do they know it's not their own thoughts, I guess, as well? Mm-hmm. And ultimately, what are some ways to protect themselves from channeling or communicating with the wrong parties?
Well, the true benevolence of no conflicting agendas works great, and the tighter circle, deeper roots. But the greatest weapon you have for to answer all of those points is know yourself, or know thyself, because then you know what your own thoughts are. Then you know if something is communicating with you, and even if it sounds like in your own thoughts, it may sound strange. That means you're getting a telepathic communication. You have to be grounded at all times. You have to know, basically, it's the old Kenny Rogers song, or The Gambler, know when to hold him, know when to fold him, know when to walk away, know when to run. Know at the time in which you are attempting to do something, whether it is applicable to the moment or not, whether you're getting paid for something or not, is irrelevant. And I know it's not irrelevant to you. And I'm saying this to him as well. It is not, if you feel it is unsafe, don't feel that you have to honor the position of a business contract at the time. If it feels unsafe, sometimes things are trying to keep you away from an event or a thing too, and trying to make it feel unsafe so you don't do the thing. You must be able to discern between the two. But the getting this shoved into your big toe, know that when the big toe incidences pop up in this, sometimes things may seem like it is getting easier, as you or Igron had you feel, Bjorn. But at the same time, know that it has an artificial creepiness to it. It doesn't mean that things are actually getting easier. You're becoming chained to the rhythm, like the Katy Perry song. Let's just put it that way. And you are being slowly taken over. But know yourself, and know that if a situation just doesn't seem right, that it is off, question every aspect of it. Normally, some beings have said going with the flow or surrendering to the flow. Now, when you in matters of flowing with an energetic situation or accepting what is, different story. But never surrender, like how a soldier would never surrender to something, some ideology or something that is basically saying, again, making your life easier in order to gain something out of it. And then you don't even have to think for yourself too. Oh, how wonderful would that be? Wrong. In this instance, if something, even if something's not claiming it out in the open, it's sometimes by example and action, not necessarily words. If a situation appears too good to be true, it usually is. Protecting, grounding yourself, shields up, armor up, and have street smarts when it comes to different situations like you would in regular life. Do this energetically. If different seers are saying, again, like they're hooked up to a contract that they can hook you up to this, or Michael's sword, or basically putting crowns on your head as a gift, or they'll give you implants as a gift. This should tell you something, folks. This should tell you something. Do not accept gifts from strangers, and beware Greeks bearing gifts. This not to bash any alliances that you've made, not to bash any good that's been out there. Anybody that is in favor of you, even in your soul family, will never have an expectation of you other than being a good, genuine, balanced person and try to help you maintain that heart space. Anything else is a distortion.
You watching this, you've just learned some energetic street smarts, I have to say. And if you are now that you've learned about the galactic courts, if you are thinking about visiting for a complaint and you're in, let's say, in dream time, you're wanting to give your grievance there, I would suggest if you can give it to all of humanity, or to make it so that all of Earth is actually something better as an outcome that you want to communicate. I'd highly recommend that, because I think the more of us that actually feel that and put that out there, I think is going to be better for all of us. So just wanted to add that at the end. And if there's anything else you want to say, Vessa, please do, and we'll end the show today.
Yes. Also, if you're also wanting to do things for the world, it doesn't mean you always spread your energy thin out to the world and keep giving and giving and giving either. That degrounds you. Yes, to be selfish, but selfless, but to also have the good side of selfish, where you're grounded and regroup your strength. Yes, and yes, should you complain to the courts often? Yes, it doesn't mean that your personal situation, again, does not matter to them. It does. But they know when it's just affecting one person and it is affecting the whole. And they are trying to teach you that, yes, it may be just bitches and grievances on a singular level, but yes, bitches and grievances on a singular level that has global ramifications. And it doesn't mean that you always focus on the globe, but it does mean that, oh, this may be affecting people around me. I should actually file a complaint. And this is also harming us. I should file a complaint. So I'm not saying the individual case in their case wouldn't matter. It does immensely. They just are trying to get people to think differently. And yes, tighter circle, deeper roots, of course. But then this is the basis for that as well. So I know that this is the ending to the show. Thank you all for listening to me. I will detach now. So I thank you all.
Thank you, Vessa. We're grateful to have you.
As are we. And know that Lanulos will be talking a lot more soon on this, now that you guys know a lot more truths surrounding the logistics. And not always every little, I will say, not always a little molecule needs to be discovered, just the fact that the connections are there. So I will bring that up as well. So thank you and goodbye. And Joanna did bring that up in private, that sometimes she doesn't always feel that the nitty gritty is needed. I feel it's both, where you need to know the logistics of something and also the simple sides of things as well. So I see it as a yin and yang that are worth looking at on both ends of the spectrum. And sometimes also she's saying, maybe not knowing about a piece of the technology isn't always necessary. True. And also we had a conversation with Tony Rodriguez one time where he didn't care what type of technology that you were around and built, like the whole Bob Lazar thing. He wants to know where you took a shit. And it's like, okay. And then Joanna described a Martian toilet to him, and he's like, oh, okay. That's where the real memories lie, are the simple little situations. That's what Joanna was really meaning. That's what Vessa was meaning, that it's usually the more heart-filled situations and or maybe simple, seemingly mediocre day-to-day type stuff, like with the SSP or Tartaria or Lanulos, where it was just a simple day, maybe where you just sat around and talked. Or just a day that it was just a nothing burger. That's where sometimes some of the meat of the whole exercise is, if that makes sense. So, or as the phrase I came up with, sometimes the the seemingly mundane situations or the seemingly mundane speaks the greatest volumes. So in this, even an emotion or maybe a dream you've had might seem mundane, but it could be a memory fragment from somewhere else. From either it could be SSP, could be alien abduction, it could be the good things like Tartarian Lanulus from ancient times, or in this case, the future and the past. So and the 2194 timeline from the future kind. And I found out that's intertwined quite a bit more than what we thought to. So this is a good stopping point if you want to have anything to add, Bjorn.
Yeah, no, I think it was a good show. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please support us by click and subscribe. We'd love to have you as a subscriber, and please look into Chris's websites, thelifting.net, and he'll have links there to his Etsy site and to others where you can purchase some products.
Mm-hmm. Yes, no, thank you all for watching this show and liking, subscribing, and getting products as well. And sessions from myself as well when you need them. So just contact us. Contact me at the lifting at proton.me. And also make sure to communicate with us here at Galactic Interversal Consortium on the comments below. So at this point, I now close this circle within true benevolence and no conflicting agendas as of this moment in time. So thank you, everybody. Bye-bye now.